Recording in progress.
There's an echo. You guys hear
Okay, maybe I should grab my
it. That's why
headphones.
it is.
Let me grab some headphones. Hold on. Okay. Does this help the echo? You're muted, but
No, I'm sorry. I said tons better. Thank you.
oh, okay, great. Yeah, I probably have it like original sound is on, that's why too. Um we got Troy Sealing. We just our Raquel, let's see, what is Raquel saying? I need the Google Meet link. Okay, let me write her back. Let's say there's no.
I just replied to her.
Oh, you did? Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. I had to grab my headphones. And I enabled screen sharing so you can share your screen, Mr. Bernie. If you need to, or you can always drop me documents and I'd be happy to share.
I dropped the doc in there's a folder created in the shared drive.
Okay.
Just did that today. Dropped it around noon, but it was the budget status report from the new EPM system, which is just like Hyperion. So it's like looks incredibly the same.
All right, let me pull that up. Budget.
And I can share it if you don't.
Oh, it's I see it. I got it. Okay. Ooh, it's little.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. Hopefully you're able to enlarge it.
Yeah. Here's Raquel. Okay. Awesome. Here we go. Welcome. Hi, Raquel. Just want to make sure we can hear her before I officially start. You think Dr. Powers is coming, Troy?
Yes, I think he is.
Okay, we can wait a couple minutes. I'll do like this is a link to that file for Mr. Bernie, and I'll just start. Let me take roll.
Thank you.
Let me pull up my minutes and okay. I cannot turn on my video or unmute. Do you want to try? Oh, Raquel, do you want to try going out and coming back in? Sometimes if you have a Google Meet open or some other thing that's using your camera, but that usually you should be able to hear. All right, let's let her. I'll wait. We have quorum. We have 3 people, so I could still take I could do approvals. So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 3:21, and I'm going to make a motion to approve the agenda. Do you have a second for that?
A second.
Okay. Oh, I hope this works for Raquel.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. I don't know.
There she is.
That's okay. Like, I was in the meeting and no one was here, so I got out and came back in, and then people showed up. So I don't know if it was, who knows? We're in the middle of taking Troy just seconded the motion to approve the agenda, so I'm just doing a vote for the agenda. So, Mr. Bernie?
Yes.
Raquel.
Yes.
Troy?
You're muted, Troy. I don't know if you know.
I think
No,
he's
I
gone.
had some people in my office.
Okay, sorry.
Well, I'm sorry, what was,
It's just if you approve the agenda.
yes, I do.
Okay. Okay, we got that. I took, a roll because I can see all your faces actually. So everyone's here. And I'll just mark down when Dr. Powers is able to join us. And then I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from the March 7th Budget Committee meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I just said Troy got there first. And then I'll do a roll call vote for approval of the minutes. Mr. Burney,
Yes.
Raquel.
I'm going to abstain because I don't remember if I read it. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay. So Don is abstaining. Hillbrands.
Yay.
Okay, I'm a yay. And that's 3 out of 4. So that approves those. Oh, sorry. Too many. Need a bigger screen. Okay, and then I'm gonna keep an eye on the waiting room, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Bernie. So you should have all gotten the attachment. And I just want to welcome Kelly. I know she's listening to the meeting. There was an attachment that.
Hi, sorry, I'm driving, but
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, I figured you were in somewhere, so that's fine. But if you have questions, just let us know. But Dr. Powers shared the budget that was given to us by CPS, and then it's always hard to tell until it's given to the business manager to see what's really going on. So in the chat, I don't know, Raquel, since you joined after, are you able to see that link to the Google Doc or does do you have a
in the agenda?
no in the chat in Zoom? Are you able to see that link, or I never know? I can repost.
No, because I came probably after you posted it.
Here, let me
Okay.
put it in there again. Okay,
Okay.
there it is again. This is really small, so I'm not sure I'm going to share it. I can try, but I'm going to turn it over to Chris, and then I'll.
Let's see what we got here.
I think if I download it, I can share it and zoom in a little bit better.
No, I'm actually zooming in on it now. I can share if you want.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure I was able to.
Perfect.
Exactly. Give me 1 second. I'll jump back. All right. Can everyone see this?
Yeah, that's great for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that too small now?
No, I can read that okay.
Okay, I just wanted to try to capture a few more columns because this stretches all the way over. So you'll see me doing maybe some of that. Well, let's start off. You mentioned, Sarah, that Dr. Powers provided the budget overview that every school gets, basically outlining what your allocations will be in both discretionary and non-discretionary funding, your position allocations as it relates to your special ed team, and any federal funds, which we really don't get. We really are limited to 2 funding sources, SBB and then the SBB supplemental. Outside of that, as I mentioned, there's the special ed allocations. That being said, I guess we should first talk about the money part. So from last year, and this is just an overview, guys, if pardon me for being redundant, I just don't want to assume everyone had an opportunity to read that initial document that Dr. Powers sent out. But last year, we were allocated in SBB funding a total of $11,595,3 $396. Basically 11.6. I'll just round it up for simplicity here. We received this year 11.9. So not much more, but there is a little more. So 11,930. I'm sorry, $11,930,333. So there is a slight increase in what was received because I believe we did get more per student. The per pupil allocation rate did increase. So that in turn provided us with a little more money. But as you all know, the price of everything is up. So, it may seem like, oh, something significant, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that significant. Our enrollment last year, again, which is currently this year, we were at 1,964 students. They are projecting us, and this is what this budget is based upon, of 1,960 students. We anticipate more than that, quite honestly. From what Dr. Powers has been told, and I guess speaking with our professionals here as far as enrollment is concerned, that we probably will exceed that. But if that happens, we may need to purchase another teacher, which is not accounted for in this budget. But we won't really know until we get the money. And that's the hard part, guys. The thing is, we could appeal for more in anticipation, say, hey, we're going to get 20 more kids or 30 more kids. We probably will need another whatever section for whatever. And I'm not certain because I'm not as familiar with the scheduling. But when that happens, we need more teachers instead of having overcrowded classrooms. The thing is, they won't give you the additional money. The board, I'm saying, won't give you the additional monies in your budget until the kids actually are showing up, until that 20th day when they sort of look. And by that time, not only is it tough to find a good teacher because you're so late into the school year, there's going to be, like I said, some overcrowding. So, we don't know if we want to get in front of this. And this is strictly, administrative call here. And I don't want to speak for Dr. Powers, but from my experience, if you do ask for that appeal, a budget appeal, an enrollment appeal during this time, they will grant it if you have, some significant evidence to show that your enrollment is going to improve. But say if we ask for 30 more in this hypothetical and we only get 20 more, then that would have, number one, that would afford us to purchase the additional teacher that's needed, number one. Number two, if we don't reach it, if we fall short, there is no more being held harmless. So you have to pay that money back. And that's the tricky part sometimes. Making sure you reach that number, or if you don't find yourself reaching that number, my job has historically been to put that extra money to the side because they're going to come for it soon. Meaning CPS is going to look for that repayment, and they're just going to snatch it out of your budget. You want to try to identify a budget line, but they will just, without notice, come take it. So just giving everyone a little bit of background on where we started, at least with this, with our SBB funding. Any questions thus far? I know I'm doing a lot of talking.
I just have one. Oh, go ahead, Raquel.
Mr. Burney, do we know how many of our rising freshmen will be neurodiverse learners?
I don't have those numbers, quite honestly. And I'm sorry, I'm getting to this diverse learners projection that we were provided with.
That's okay. Yes.
Special ed. So in FY22, our 20th day for, again, our special education enrollment. 134 students, and that was on the 20th day, but as of now, we have 135. So there was one student increase. They're projecting us. It hasn't changed. I'm sorry, it hasn't changed. So our allocation for teachers have not changed. As I look at we have 18 positions. This year, they're giving us 18 positions. Next year, that typically means you're not getting very many more students, if any at all. Yeah, our numbers for special education has not changed.
Okay. Thank
Troy,
you.
Troy, did you have some information?
I hope he does.
Yeah, I mean, it's not much difference from the years past. That's all I was going to say is this is the first time that CPS is actually, when they submit the numbers for students who are coming to us, that they've also included the students that are going to be in the cluster program. The one thing I would say about this is I raised my hand and I was like, well, maybe we don't fully know yet. Usually these students come from oodles and not through the selective process. So there could be additional students that we're receiving that we don't know yet.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should clarify my question. When I say neurodiverse learners, I mean those that will not be in the cluster program.
The ones that might have IEPs and
yes, and 504s, yes.
So that we will have more information on once we complete our freshman welcome. That's going to be today, Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay.
By then we'll have the IEPs and 504s, and then we can start figuring out how many we have for each one.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Troy.
And I just had one question of, there was an email from Aisha Humphreys that was just saying like an analysis of enrollment trends supports granting per pupil advance of 10 additional students. And so, but that would be something that if we accept, we're not held harmless. So have you guys talked about that? Do we think we could get 1970 pretty easily and we'd want to take that advance, or we just we'd rather wait?
Again, I think it would be in our best interest, honestly, if we are to maintain some type of decent transition in come the fall, beginning of the school year, or August, whenever we start now.
August 26th.
We want to have things in place. And if we don't meet that, again, I'm savvy enough to put that money to the side until we really need it. I would suggest yes, only because we're gonna be, it will be a skirmish to try to find someone decent.
Okay, so you're saying take the 10 now
in order to get the personnel in place.
Right. Okay, that's all.
Have the position open, because we can't we can't advertise for the position until we have it open.
Okay.
And that's the thing. We don't have to staff it. We could close it if we find out later, okay, we don't need this person. And I'm really looking from a staffing perspective. If we don't need this body, this teacher in front of these students, we could not hire and just close the position and give that money back or whatever the case is. So we don't have someone on the payroll who's not working,
right?
Who's not in front of kids. So that is a way, but we can't advertise until we have that position open.
Oh, sorry. Kelly, you guys have your hand up.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, I know that there was an increase in the SBB funds that Jones was given. Does it cover all of the increases in teacher salaries and steps and lanes, so that, are you able to keep all the current teachers as is?
Great question. So yes, Kelly, thank you for asking that question. Part of the budgeting system, it accounts for step increases. It also accounts for the increase for buckets as well, the dollar amount that it increases. So that has been taken into account when we've budgeted for positions for the upcoming fiscal year.
great. Thank you.
Great question. Dr. Powers, hi. I was just going over the original document you sent over regarding just the CPS allocations, what we were projected to have. And the question was, and also our position allocation for our special education department. And we talked briefly about the possibility of having an increase in enrollment. And Sarah was asking, would it make, I told her, hey, you know, the pros and cons of, you know, the email that Ms. Humphrey sent out, Aisha, regarding the additional 10 from the 1960 to the 1970. Sarah was asking, you know, about that. And I was just explaining to, you know, the group actually, the advantages of having that up front versus not having it and getting it later on after the school year has started. We put ourselves in a really compromised position in many ways when we do that. And if we do get the money up front, at least we're able to, because we can't advertise for a position to get a qualified candidate until we have an actual position number. I can't get the position number until I have the money to open the position, number one. But I was explaining, we don't have to fill it. If we find out that we've fallen short or we don't need the teacher, we can honestly close that position without staffing it. If we find that our numbers aren't really jiving, and you know, reallocate those monies. Well, not reallocate, we probably have to give those monies back if we don't, or at least a portion of them back, if we don't meet that projected increase.
And again, my apologies for coming in late. I got tied up with somebody who arrived unexpectedly, and you know, again, my apologies for not being on time. No, that's right, Chris. Right now, we're in an unusual situation. I'm sure Chris has appraised you of this to some extent. We are currently have a projected enrollment based on our 20th day from earlier this school year of 1,960 students. And that normally is just fine to work from that as a starting point. The problem is we've seen a decline in our enrollment, not huge, but a steady decline from our peak, which was 1970. And that was pre-pandemic, pre all this crazy business that took place. So what I'm trying to do is to aim for 1970 as our budgeted amount, which would mean 10 students more than what we currently have received. That does require the approval and the understanding of the principal, the network chief, and the LSC chair as well. Because if we don't make 1,970, then we give back money, however many we fall short of that, but no lower than the 1960. That is what we've been projected for. Right now, and this is my anticipation based on a number of different things, I believe not only will we comfortably hit 1970, I think we'll go over that. And it's a question of whether we hold on to that enrollment until the 20th day in the fall. We might start school with a certain number and we'll have 10 fewer, 15 fewer by the time the 20th day rolls around because people, you know, they move, they go to other schools, they, you know, whatever, for whatever reason. So what I'm trying to do is keep a balancing act here. We need some of that money up front. And I'm very confident that we'll make our 1970. At the same time, I don't want to push it too much further than that. It's good to get extra money in October, but you can't base your staffing on that. And CPS will, I don't hear this much anymore. I know I'm going on some length, but I just want to give you a background on it. CPS would say, well, we'll give you the money in October and then you can hire people and redo your schedules. No. I mean, that's Bush League. It's something you just don't do unless there's some catastrophic reason that you have to do that. But not in our situation. We have, you know, a reasonable control over how many kids are coming in. One reason why I think we'll go over that is our current freshman class was budgeted, I was trying to budget for about 490 as a net number. That would be the new freshman class. But We don't know the impact of the end of the pandemic, how people are going to see that. In other words, we lost kids last year because people had gone off and done other things instead because the schools were closed. They were remote. I anticipate that with return to some reasonable level of stability, that we won't have as much attrition over the summer. We always have some, but I don't think we'll have as much, especially with incoming freshmen. And so my goal overall is to replace the graduating class, which is 500 kids, with 500 freshmen. And if that holds true, then we will increase our enrollment. We can't go too far because we run out of space. We're basically have a handful of classrooms available. But we don't want it to fall down either. That might be more comfortable, but then people lose their jobs. And we end up with the same size in the classes anyway. So anyway, that's kind of where we are on that. And there was, and I don't know that this ever was out in the public airwaves, but CPS last Friday sent us information. We had a meeting with the top leadership with some adjustments in the selective enrollment process. There were some basically clerical mistakes, so that instead of the 404 selective enrollment kids, and that doesn't include our CTE or principal discretion, but instead of 404, we could have as many as 420 or 425 based on these changes because of the errors that had taken place. Not our errors, but in computational errors at the CPS level. So we could top 500 in that incoming freshman class without too much difficulty. And we don't want to go too further than that though, because yes, we'll get more money, but we're not going to get all of it in order to plan this spring. The rest of it will come in the fall if the numbers hold steady. Okay, sorry, I went on at length. Trying to make up for being late to the meeting.
No, that was good. I see Kelly and Raquel have hands. Are those old hands? Old hands? Okay. So just to clarify, Dr. Pars, that means that the new freshman class was 404, but you're saying that will change based on these clerical errors.
The 404 was just the selective enrollment class.
Yes, I'm sorry.
And then we could have, like I said, we could have probably anywhere from 14 or 15 up to as many as 20 additional kids. So like call that 425. We try to do 75 for CTE and then another 23 for principal discretion. Well, that puts us over 500. That puts us in the 520 range. But again, there's always attrition. And if that bottoms down to about 500, 490 to 500 by the 20th day, then I think we'll be in pretty good shape financially. We might get some additional funds in October, which would be nice. But again, you can't plan staff on that. You have to plan staff on what you actually have to start with. Bless you, Sarah. I didn't hear you.
Thank you. It was the silent Zoom sneeze.
There you go. Zoom sneeze. That's good.
Okay. Thank you. And we'll turn it back to Chris.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Powers, for filling in some important gaps that I missed, obviously. So in a nutshell, just going back to what was presented to us to work with, we had a total, one thing we didn't get. Let me go back. When I first saw the budget, I saw one thing that was missing that typically schools get. And this was an additional line of money. And it's called a, oh my God. What is that? What is the name of it? It's the technical call, but it's basically allocation for expensive teachers. I forgot what they actually call it. So typically you would get an increase in budgeted funds so you can retain your more senior teachers. You don't want to make tough decisions because you have very expensive but great teachers. And CPS has historically provided all schools with that salary adjustment. That's what they call it, salary adjustment in the budgets. Whereas say the average salary of a CPS high school teacher is $74,000, $75,000, whatever it is. Well, if you have teachers who are working $90,000, that's a 15 grand increase, $16,000 increase. What they would do was give you the difference. So in funding for those teachers, when you guys were over that average, long of the short, that has gone away. We did not get that. And that is a significant amount of money that I did go back to the budget department to see as to why we did not get it here at Jones. They explained to us that the formula had changed a little bit. Not many schools didn't get it this year. But in lieu of not getting that, they provided us with 3 positions. And was my segue into personnel. We were awarded 3 core instructional positions and also a halftime bilingual position. In my analysis of the budget, and I know, I hadn't really taken a real close look in our first meeting or two because I was trying to get myself just situated here. But I've noticed we spend a ton of money for different things out of our internal accounts. Jones is very personnel heavy when it comes to budget, and they're not unique, first of all, in being in that scenario. A lot of schools are like that, unfortunately. That being said, we pay for, as you guys may or may not know, positions out of those 124 funds. What we were able to do by getting these 3.5 positions was to free up money that were originally purchased with our 115 or 115 supplemental funding. So what we did was basically close those existing positions, since we had 3.5 new positions to which the board was paying for. Okay, so that allowed us to free up funding for next year's budget to shift some of the expenses that we were incurring in the 124 or internal accounts IMSS funding. So there were 3 positions that were funded through, well, let me go to the positions that were closed. There was a Dr. Powers, because I know everyone's name, but I'm trying to think.
Well, I mean, the 124 ones, there was an AP.
No. I was talking about the new positions that we were.
Oh, I see. Okay.
What disciplines they were in, just so you guys could know. And what did I do? Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. Of course, I spoke about the bilingual position of 0.5. So we were paying for that at first. So now we've closed that position so the money could drop back into our budget. Same thing, there's a program options teacher, which appeared to, I think this is psychology or?
Yeah, that's correct.
Psychology, French, and then our librarian position. So those we were able to close and fill, restaff these people with no change to anything as far as seniority steps or any of that to these new positions. That'll freed us up tremendously to do a little more. And now leading into what you were alluding to earlier, Sarah, those 124 positions, we had a 0.5 with
Orchestra,
correct. I'm thinking names, I'm trying not to use names, but 0.5 with orchestra, and then of course an AP position and operations manager's position. What we were able to do is lighten that burden, that obligation, and move that 0.5 and also the AP position into our budgeted funds. So we're not relying on our and the strain of and the dependency of the building income. Even though we are all very optimistic about the rental and the future, until it's in hand, we can't really depend on it. We have to work with real numbers. as we budget, period. But especially now, and we'll talk about this on the back end, because we have an obligation, and it's a huge obligation to pay that money back for those positions. And we'll talk about that later. I'll go back to the budget. Any questions though about the position swapping and why?
No. I have other questions, but I think you're going to answer them, so I'll just keep
Okay.
We have one other thing that was picked up by CPS to be centrally funded. That's a full-time athletic director. So that means that our current athletic director will not have to have teaching duties, and we will not actually be paying him out of our accounts. So that was another plus, that and getting the halftime bilingual teacher back paid by CPS, and then those 3 additional positions.
Kelly, is that a hand, or are those new hands? I don't want to.
It is a new hand. I just it's really nice and refreshing to be on a call where the budget is very solid and covers what is needed at the school, because we're currently going through something very different in our elementary school. So the additional positions are really rich for the school from what I'm hearing, and the fact that like you're looking to add instead of cut is amazing. So I know you don't see all the other schools, but from that perspective, it's really fortunate.
Very fortunate. And thank you for acknowledging that. There's a total of, between the SBB funding and the supplemental funding, there's a total budget of $18,028,586 in total. Most of our budgeted funds, again, from CPS, are obligated into positions. But even with these moves that we were able to make and swapping these positions out and freeing up monies, we were still able to allocate some additional funds for non-personnel expenses in this budget. Some of the things we were able to do, and let me explain why we're doing it. We did find out through the manager of the School Support Center that we will not, and no schools will receive the MFT money that we received this year. That will not be there, nor the OST money. So these were like critical sources of funding that all schools receive, but especially Jones, we received quite a bit, and it's allowed us a lot of flexibility to maintain certain programming and certain personnel overtime and just a lot of the things that we do for students. So having this, I won't call it a cushion, but the extra funding to actually allocate towards, and I'll scroll down here on my screen here to the bottom where the non-personnel lines are. Well, I'll start with the bucket. So everything above this is positions. So this is all positions for the most part. Everything is positions. There are some 124 buckets here, but everything else above here is positions. These 124 buckets, we did not open. And Fund 24, again, just to remind people, those are our funds that we can actually control, the internal accounts money. And we use quite a bit of that to run a lot of the things that we do, as I mentioned earlier. We did with these last 2 positions, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse here, but positions 546,823 and 611,431. Those are buckets. One of them is a teacher bucket and one of them is a ESP bucket. Teacher bucket is to make sure, just in case things aren't in place, we want to make sure that we have funds in place for our teachers to engage and do tutoring after school. These are instructional rate buckets. So we don't lose any, until we find more money or whatever CPS decides they're going to release more money. We never really know, but we want to make sure we utilize these funds before we use our internal accounts funds, because again, these funds, we want to make sure we allocate in a way where, we want to spend these monies first at the end of the day before we tap into the checking account, because we know we're pretty lean on that right now. So anyway, there's an ESP bucket for $20,000 for extended day. That's for our SECAs. That is for our security. That is for our clerks. And then another bucket for our teachers for $25,700. And that's for our extended day programs for instructional purposes. So from the remaining personnel funds, again, we opened up buckets totaling $45,738 between the two buckets mentioned. Any questions regarding those buckets before I move on to the other non-personnel expenses?
If I could add one thing here too, and that is those funds that we have beyond what's already encumbered by existing staff, we're going to be potentially flexible on the use of it because we don't have a schedule yet. We don't have all our students scheduled. So we don't know for certain, are there going to be additional staffing needs for the school? And that's the big uncertain thing. I can already pretty much project a couple of what I call overtime, but we call them 0.2 positions, meaning a teacher teaching 6 classes instead of 5. Potentially, we're looking at a couple or 3 of those, but I don't know yet because we haven't completed the scheduling process. So once that's done, we'll have an even better idea. We may have a reduction in one area, an increase in another area. Hopefully it'll balance out, but we may be dipping into some of those other funds. And as Chris said before, we had the internal accounts as our backup. And right now we really don't have that available, at least on hand to where we can say we'll cover that through those accounts, at least at this particular point.
Okay. If there are no questions regarding the buckets, we went over personnel and the switches with personnel. We just talked about the only 2 buckets. We wanted to make sure it covered pretty much everyone. And that's just using the budgeted funds, not tapping into our 124 funding at all. None of this is tapping into that at this point. The non-personnel budget lines, there's this managed print services. So this is for our existing CPS, our existing lease. Our lease is with RICO. RICO has monopolized the system in such a way, whereas they get their money off the top. We don't even have a choice. They automatically take this $11,000 out of the budget. And CPS earmarks that immediately when we receive the budget. So that's $11,000 there. I placed $4,000 because again, we had some monies left, but as you can see here, there's a total outside of this $11,000 that was already taken. There's only around $50,000 really that we had to divvy up, quite honestly, after everything was done. After the buckets were opened for the dollar amount I mentioned earlier, this was what was left. We placed $4,000 into basically just instructional supplies. And that's what this represents here. We decided, I know athletics typically covers their own transportation, but as things have began to open up more, our students are going to be traveling more and doing more field trips, and we need to account for that transportation portion of it. So we did put $5,000 towards pupil transportation in anticipation of, again, our kids doing a little more than what previously had been done with regards to student travel. We wanted to make sure we continue to invest into our teachers' professional development. That's very important. And I've noticed that in my short time here with some of the requests that have come across my desk in the last 6-7 weeks. But there's $10,000 allocated towards professional development for their fees, memberships, subscriptions, whatever is involved with professional development for our teachers. And this money here, they threw it in here, and it's nothing like it just sits here because we don't know what this is. This last budget line, it says miscellaneous charges 57940 school safety. This is simply like our SRO money. It's in the same budget line as SRO. Not really sure why this is here, but it's just what they've allocated. We're not spending it. We're just going to have it sit because we really don't know what this is going to look like and what we really plan to do. I don't want to put it in a line for a bucket or put it in for supplies. We really don't know what we're going to look like from that perspective. I know that, of course, we just hired at the same time I was hired, our school culture and climate, my fellow Mr. Lopez. But beyond that, there was talks of cameras or whatever, and that could be these funds could be supported in that way. So we left it there rather than make a hasty decision on what our needs would be, because it's sort of hard to project at this point. But essentially, that is our budget in a nutshell, as it relates to our budgeted funds in 115 and in the 115 supplemental.
So we put that as a security miscellaneous, or that's how they allocate?
No, they've allocated. They
okay.
put it right there.
And
yes.
Then, so this, it's so interesting to me because it's hard with SBB to determine the SRO money that we were supposed to get every year, because security is paying for our 10th security guard, and I saw that already in what they provided. So it seems like 31, it should be more than that,
Well, I think because if you remember, and this is the balance of it. So this 31, we only received probably say 150,000, right?
What was 130?
130. Okay, that's even better. Sorry. Remember, we are one of the positions. Mr. Lopez is in right above here, and his salary is not his salary, but his total position cost is at 100. So this is the remaining balance. We would see that entire 130, or
yeah. No, I was just curious of how, like, if it's based off of SBB. Go ahead, Dr. Powers.
Yeah, and just following up to what Chris was saying a few minutes ago, this is what remains. And because of because of the timing we've got and so forth, we're probably going to utilize this to upgrade parts of our camera system, especially to put cameras in places where we never have had them, particularly at the north end of the campus for covering some of the outside areas. And then funds permitting, repairing, replacing, and expanding within the building as well, because we do have blind spots, but especially on the north, in the north building and around the north building. So that's going to be perfectly positioned for the use of those funds, because that's really what they're intended for, is security.
And part two of that, if I may, Dr. Powers, that's an expensive job, cameras, very expensive. From my experience at other schools and seeing some of the quotes that have come even here at Jones. That being said, quite honestly, I think we do this in waves with, we're able to do some of it now and say, okay, we'll do just for conversation's sake, we'll do some of the north building now before this school year ends. And then when this budget opens, this 31,000, we could say, hey, let's earmark this for the other section of the north building or the south building, or however we need to break it up, but just making sure we maximize our funds as best as possible.
Yeah, my question was more procedural, like how was that money put into 115 funds? Did Mr.
It's
Lopez
under a
get it?
different grant.
He got his own grant. Great. So it
Yeah, so
does
that-
line up.
Right. So that
perfect.
is not part of the SBB funding.
Great.
SRO money is that it's the grant number 000979, and SBB is 000575. So it is a totally different, even though it's 115. There are several 115s, quite honestly.
No, that totally answered my question.
Perfect.
Right. Thank you.
So in a nutshell, again, that is the budget that we need to take a look at. And again, I know we do a lot of our budgeting for supplemental, like supplies and other things, through our student fees through 124. And that's something, we can talk about a little later, but as for the sake of this report and what's required of us, this is what the LSC needs to take a look at and decide on and vote on, basically.
Yeah, if I could predict, like, their only question, and I think Dr. Parr has already answered this, would be, do we need to add positions? And the answer is we're not sure. We have to see how the scheduling goes. The question is, do we have money to add positions if we need them, now that we are no longer paying for the AP and the halftime orchestra teacher?
Well, if we need them, and again, we really won't know, as Dr.
Right.
Powers said, until we get this. I mean, honestly, I would, and again, this is just Chris Burney talking here. It's good to have it than not to have it, and need it, and being reactionary, it just puts a strain on everyone. The kids, the teachers who have to wait and have overcrowded classrooms until this new teacher is hired. It just becomes really, it's a trickle down of headache for everyone involved. So if we were able to get this funding up front, and again, we don't have to staff it, but at least we can have it out there and be ready to pull the trigger instead of being reactionary later on.
Yeah, and adding on to that and kind of following up to what I said earlier, adding the additional 10 student seats to the budgeting is very conservative. We could, especially given the changes we've seen coming from CPS with regard to the additional freshmen, I think we will come in above that as well, but we've got to have enough to plan for, let's put it that way. So I feel comfortable enough that we'll be able to, we'll meet that challenge. We'll meet that projection.
Okay, Kelly?
Yeah, I just had a question with respect to technology. I know that at the elementary level that technology is now being funded at 1-to-1 by the district. Is that happening at the high school level as well?
Yes, it is.
That's excellent.
We've received direction that we are not to purchase on our school budgets any direct technology that's directly issued to students, meaning in our case, our Chromebooks.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. Thanks.
Do you, Dr. Powers, foresee us keeping that tech fee then, or?
We'll still need it for replacements, for repairs, and also for other technology. In other words, there's other technology needed in the building that isn't covered by what CPS is going to be doing. And that could be everything from, projectors in the classrooms, any one of a number of things. But
projectors, whiteboards,
providing support.
Yeah.
Oh, software, and I know some of our computer labs are way overdue. So hopefully we can take the money we collected for the tech fees this year and start replacing those computer labs, or try to use the other funds, MFT, et cetera, if we can buy tech with that. I think there might be some discussion around that fee, potentially decreasing it to $50 a year instead of $100. Like, I don't know. I think it's just something to, if the district really is paying for all of that, to revisit. I know that there has been discussion that the fees seem very high. I know they're not as high as lane tax. So it's just something to think about. I think that would be a question. And I think that it's a question that can only be answered by looking at the data, right? To say, like, we have collected X dollars this year, but we have our tech plan, which I know Sandeep is working on, that says we need to replace, $100,000 worth of computers, and this is our plan to do that. So I'm not saying that we don't need that money. I'm just saying that it should be something that we decide with data. And I think he can't be here today. He had a work emergency, but I know he's been working with Joanne, and he talked to different teachers, and he's kind of putting together a plan for that. I see Kelly.
Yeah, just with respect to that, I mean, I agree with the data portion. I think it also needs to be kind of a long-term approach, right? Just because you're going to have the replacements over and over and over again. And just because the district is funding the one-to-one student technology doesn't necessarily mean that the families and the students shouldn't chip in for that, partially as a way for them to, like, take it seriously and take care of it and that sort of thing. And then obviously the repairs and the wear and tear and the use and that other things. I mean, just because it's not coming out of the actual school's budget, I don't know that necessarily means that cost shouldn't get passed to the families as well.
Yeah, I mean, also thinking about Dr. Powers, did they say that what's their replacement schedule? They're funding one-to-one continuously?
I don't think we can plan anything on a continuous basis. I think you do it year to year, and that could change next year. Who knows?
Right.
But it makes sense because they're trying to go one-to-one citywide, system-wide, and because it's such a huge lift, and they set the precedent by rolling out so much of it during the pandemic, during the remote time, that it makes sense for them to continue. Something to add too, with regard to the replacement level, we don't know what CPS is going to consider, how they're going to go through the process of replacement with the Chromebooks. One thing that Joanne and I have discussed is that we actually have in stock sufficient number that those original projections for having to purchase a large number of Chromebooks probably doesn't need to be done. It'll be a smaller number, but again, we don't know how CPS is going to calculate that. That was just when we were actually going to be doing the purchasing.
Right. So it sounds like we just need a lot more information before any changes were made. But just for people on the call, that Sandeep has been working on like a longer term strategic plan for tech and tech replacement. And I think that will be like integral to any decisions that are made with respect to fees, et cetera. So what do you want to present on for Thursday? Is that?
I think the main thing, the most important thing is to go over what we've already done today. Make sure that people know where we stand with regard to the 115 funds and the 115 supplemental, the changes in CPS, and I tried to share a lot of that in advance with the LSC, and the things that are, again, mostly to our advantage, let's put it that way, but also with the understanding that we don't have a schedule yet. We don't know what our staffing needs exactly are going to be. So we have to kind of approve what we've got here and then anticipate what's going to be happening, if anything, with regard to staffing levels. I do think we're going to, like I've said before, I do think our enrollment is going to easily make that 1970 mark. And if we get that additional funds, I mean, that's, it's close to $6,000 per student. So we'd be looking at around $60,000 additional in 115 funds up front. That could make a difference if we find ourselves, along with some of the funds we already have remaining, non-personnel funds, if we find ourselves in need of a position or enhancing a position through overtime for some of the teachers. But again, to do that, waiting until October is not, it's not feasible.
So
It's
for
good to have the
third,
money, but not to do staffing at that time.
yeah, agreed. I think I could throw together like a slide deck and share it with you to add anything specifically like enrollment. I'm just trying to present something on Thursday, and then what is your thought about internal accounts budget? You want to do that separately? You're muted. Can you unmute Dr.
Dr.
Powers?
Powers, you're muted as well. I was trying to tell you you're muted.
Unmute. There's too many buttons show up. I try and unmute on one and the other one says unmute over here. So anyway, I think we do need to do it separately because the two are not, the internal accounts are not flowing into personnel the way they have in the past. And as a result, we've got some other ideas. Chris has been very helpful in helping us to develop some of this. And we're also not working from the point of view of already having funds sitting there. The funds we have in internal accounts are almost all encumbered for clubs, organizations, teams, any one of a number of things where they've raised money and it's in their accounts. We can't broom that out. It's quite a bit of money, but we can't, take it over. Those are activity accounts for those kinds of things. So we have some ideas with regard to how to allocate funds from internal accounts, but doing it in such a way that we're not just guessing how much will be coming in. And Chris will be able to explain that because I think it's a good way to look at it, but it's separate from this particular piece we've just been doing. That has to be moved forward. The other, we can take a little bit more time with, but not indefinitely, of course.
Yeah, and if I could, that was a great segue, Dr. Powers. Sarah, I wanted to share with the finance committee, first of all, a tool that I sort of used at schools that I've worked at as it relates to fee allocations, basically. How do your fee distribution? And if I could, I'm just gonna quickly share what I have sort of been working on for Jones here. So I saw what you guys had sort of created last year. And ironically, I've done some of the same thing, just in a different format as it relates to fee distributions. So what I've done here is taken your form, I guess the budget form that you guys created last year, the Excel spreadsheet, and dumped your information into my format, which is not very different from yours. So basically what I did was look at what you guys allocated or projected to allocate last year and the percentages. For example, of the total budget that you guys had projected, 40% of it were going to our departments. Dance, can everyone see this? Do I need to enlarge it? Okay. Dance, special education, blah, 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 blah. And it goes down the list here. 40% of the student fee funding was were being allocated in this way. Each one of these account for this 40%. So in dance, of that 40%, dance got 2.88. So I went through all the numbers and assigned a percentage based on what you guys allocated last year. Allocated a percentage here. Same thing with miscellaneous supplies, a handbook, paper, postage. The leasing, same thing. 10.5% of the total budget went to miscellaneous supplies. Here are the subcategories. Software, same thing. Special projects that you guys had listed, same thing. So forth and so on. And what I do with this, and this is where it gets really cool, well, for me at least, because I like numbers. It's probably dumb and boring to you guys. But I found myself once student fees came in, having to go through this distribution calculation. Having this tool made it brainless. So I know we may project, whatever these numbers are, but in actuality, I've got to work with what I have in hand in that checking account. I can't work off fictional numbers. That being said, I did keep a column here for projected amounts that we can work and just compare. But what this form does, say for an example, I have $325,000 that we just got, say from student fees from July till the beginning of school. And all I'm simply doing is typing in this 325,000, hitting enter, and all of them, everything populates here. What everyone's percentage should be per department. So then when I go to do my work and do the distribution, it's all right here and it's very easy to do. So I was thinking, you know, as a committee or as an LSC, when it comes to, and we were talking about this a second ago, the student fee for technology, if we want to move these percentages around, that's going to make more sense and be in alignment with the CIWP and the priorities that we have for next year. This is where we could do this to make it really simple and allocate something as a percentage rather than a dollar amount of the student fee. Many times parents would ask, well, let me get the student fee breakdown. I want to see how much of this goes to what. This is where it is. And this is an easy place to sort of show how we've come up and why we've come up. And it allows us to adjust the percentages, to your point, Sarah. We can adjust how much we're taking. Some things we don't need anymore. For example, staff development. We had in the last budget, there was money accounted for that, but we put 10 grand out of the normal funds, out of the budgeted funds, so we don't have to use our internal accounts for staff development. So I made little notes there, but anyway, this is just a cool little tool. I thought it was cool because it just helped me out so much in my job. And whenever it's time, whenever we need to distribute funds, we're talking real numbers, whatever this number is, it just breaks it out for us. So we can modify this. I want to work with you on this and just see what makes sense, what allocations to change. Again, this was just what I mirrored from last year, what was approved last year. But I'm sure things have changed, but using this allows us a more realistic view of the dollars we have and where our monies are going. And I'll turn it over to you, Sarah.
No, it's absolutely, I do something very similar in my own business. Like I get a certain, I pull a certain amount of income over and I divide it between where I think it's going to be needed. Very similar, percents and everything. The things that I think, Dr. Parr, that we should look at on this particular things that would be updated is, is software the same? What has changed? Are textbooks the same? What has changed? And then those special projects, what does the school want to prioritize? Does the CIWP need any funding? So otherwise, I think it's great shape. I'm an analytical person, so I like that it's very analytical. Does anyone else have any feedback?
Yeah, I think Mr. Burney is doing a great job.
Thank you.
I have faith in his capabilities. And I'm sorry, but I need to leave because I need to hurry up and eat a sandwich to make it there to meet my volunteers at 5 o'clock. So I'm going to have to jump off. I'm really sorry. But thank you, everybody. And I appreciate all the work that you all are doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Raquel.
Thanks, Raquel.
See you soon.
Yes. Bye.
So I'm glad. I mean, I'm glad you're so familiar with it, Sarah, because that's important. And I wanted, when I saw what you guys did last year, and I'm like, wow, this is like sort of very similar to what I do, except I just incorporate a percentage and create these formulas, whereas I'm not recreating the wheel every time. Because even when this is done, I've still got to allocate all this money, the real money, into those said budget lines within, those accounts, within IMES. So this is really helpful, but I wanted to hopefully use this, and hopefully it's an easy enough tool to assign the percentages as needed, and add the different categories or take away categories.
Yeah, and then at the end you'll know what you spent. And then so I guess that I know that everyone has. I want to be. I think we should wrap it up, but for what is your timeline for presenting this? Like if I make a slide deck and I say we're gonna approve the budget. I mean, this doesn't look like it has a lot of outstanding issues. Like I don't want to get like too overconfident, but I feel like on Thursday that this could be something the LSC could approve. I don't know. Yeah.
I wanted to, and I want to go over, I don't know if it's needed to for the approval for right now. And I don't want to be rushed, because we don't have these monies yet. We're talking about what we're going to get eventually from FY23's student fees, none of which we've collected yet. So I want to be sure, and I'd like us to be firm and talk about this a little more so we're sure on these percentages. That's what and I don't know if that's done as a finance department, the committee, I'm sorry, within the LSC, and we just meet to go over this in more detail before it's presented. I just think we should have a better idea and adjust the percentages and maybe come up with, because right now you can't make an educated decision on projected amounts because we don't know what the scheduling is going to be like. For example, we've already talked about the fluctuation with student enrollment, but we don't know how many students are going to get the, science department fee, the history, like we don't know the scheduling to know what these other fees are going to bring because there's so many unknowns.
Right.
We don't know how many students are going to qualify for fee waivers also. I mean, we're hovering right around 30%. So that's a good guesstimate, but we don't know if that's going to continue that way.
Right. Kelly, did you have a quick question?
Yes, I have a couple questions. One,
Sure.
You keep referring to Thursday, but I thought there was a special meeting next Monday for budget approval.
I don't know what's going on myself.
Okay, I see it on the website. I saw that there was. I'm like, wait, there's another special meeting, and there's
maybe that's next Thursday. I don't know. I have to.
Okay, no, it's fine. It's listed as Monday, April 4th online, so that's why I was just curious because I thought the one on Thursday was about the equity study. So, but regardless, my understanding too is that the LSC vote on the budget that has the deadline in April is with respect to the district funds that are not the district funds, but the SBB and the positions and all that kind of stuff. And then
Correct.
This piece doesn't have a deadline per se, more that it needs to be monitored constantly.
Not a CPS deadline at all, but
right.
I'm sort of in agreement with Sarah in the fact of at least getting the method and tool. I'd like to present that to the LSC at some point once we are comfortable with the percentages, even though we don't know the numbers yet, but just for those who may not be trusting or familiar with spreadsheets and not really math savvy, I think having this explanation ahead of time and keeping everyone informed, and giving
Mr.
them.
Vernon, I'm sorry. Let me ask you one more question. Can I ask one more question with respect to this?
Sorry.
When you do these, when you actually get the fees in, do you then allocate them like monthly to these line items and then work against them when you have expenses?
You have the best questions. Because these are things I just take for granted a lot of times. So yes, absolutely. When I try to let it build up a little bit, so I'm not doing it like every week, where it's sort of significant. And every school is a little different. At my old school, I did it probably 3 times a semester, 2 to 3 times a semester, depends on what was going on. Of course, towards the end of the first semester, holidays, people aren't paying fees. They're celebrating Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, everything. So everyone's sort of tight. But in the spring, you bet. In the beginning, right before school starts, you bet. There are big chunks of money. So whatever the schedule is, I would use this tool. It could be monthly for all I care, whatever the LSC and what we think is going to be, agreeable on the distribution. It's not difficult when you're using this tool. So I'm comfortable with whatever frequency, honestly.
So if I have to put a date on the time on the thing, we'd say that, we'll get the internal accounts budget approved. And then we're going to work, I can highlight that we're working on these percentages, and that will be presented in May as preliminary. Go ahead.
My question, you say get the internal accounts budget approved because.
No, I'm sorry. I meant to say the opposite.
Okay.
I meant to say the opposite.
We're not ready.
I meant to say the 115 funds.
Gotcha.
District money.
And whatever, absolutely. And I think whatever you're comfortable with, I'd like to work with you guys with getting these percentages together, though, and working with admin team too. I'm new in the sense of, not that I don't know what I'm doing, of course, but just I haven't really looked at the CIWP extensively. And like you said, there are going to be some changes, software, technology. There's so many changes, and I want to make sure everyone weighs in. So we make a really good guesstimate on these percentages. And we can always adjust it, but I'd like to get as close as possible the first time. But that being said, Sarah, what do you think? Do you feel comfortable presenting this without knowing the actual percentages?
I think people will have too many questions that we don't have answers for. I think it would be better to work with the PPLC and with the admin team to either figure out what textbooks and software is needed next year, and then Dr. Powers can go through and look at the line items and decide, are we missing anything? Do we have things that we don't need anymore? And make his recommendations. I see Kelly. Is that an old hand, Kelly? Okay.
Sorry, old hand.
Okay. Let's do one thing at a time. Let's focus on getting the district by what's 4/19 is that's due. I like how they made it the day at, almost coming back from spring break. That was really generous of them.
Yeah, some of us are working during spring break.
I hear you. Me too.
Yeah, that's the tool in a nutshell. And whenever it's time, I can share out, and we can sort of collaborate and work together. But there are, again, so many unknowns. But I think once we fill in these blanks, I think everyone will be pretty happy.
Okay. Yeah. I will throw some slides together and wait, is it special meeting Thursday? There is one Thursday. Okay. So
that's Thursday. And I think the 4th was a backup just in case we don't finish the discussion on Thursday.
Okay. And Troy, did I hear you cannot come on Thursday?
Yeah, probably not going to be able to come. I posted what Cassie sent on the 23rd, requesting a 31st meeting at 6 p.m. and then one on April 4th. It looks like it's all budgetary stuff. So do you think so that's half right? And then the 4th is the backup? Is that what I'm understanding?
That sounds right. So, but it's just a special meeting to talk about this budget because it has to be approved by the 19th. And I think everyone would feel better if we just got it done before spring break. If we're lucky enough that we can do that. You never know, but it looks positive right now. The only thing, Troy, is if you cannot be there on Thursday, if a CPS employee could host, either Dr. Powers or Ellen or Kim, host the Google Meet.
I can get it started, but if there's people that are coming in, I'm going to be doing freshman welcome stuff. I would love to say that that's only going to be for an hour, but usually parents linger around and have have lots of questions. So
Yeah, so maybe Ellen or Kim, just so they can let people in and they have a CPS account.
Yeah.
Because I remember I tried to host a Google Meet, no one could join. So
yeah,
And just a
I'll talk
reminder, I have to
talk to
join
them,
in
and
progress.
I'll see about like handing over host abilities. I thought I was able to do that, maybe not.
what did you say, Dr. Powers?
Just a reminder, I've got the same thing Troy has, but I was going to try and join no later than 7:30.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the way I communicated with.
Well, I
Beth.
mean, I guess I can just present what I have and answer questions, and then, I don't want to make Mr. Burney come, but Mr. Burney could come.
This is the special meeting, right?
Yeah.
On Thursday, what time?
6.
I don't have it on my calendar. That's why I'm like,
Yeah. No,
maybe I shouldn't have it on my calendar because I'm not.
No, I mean, what are you doing Thursday at 6 p.m.?
Probably just leaving a mentoring session. So I might be able to pop in to help fill in gaps though.
Okay.
If you could
Okay.
just send me.
Yeah, yes, I'll send it to you.
And I'll try my best to get there before then. It's just that we've only got one session on Thursday for freshman welcome, so I don't have to shuttle back and forth between the two auditoriums. So perhaps when I finish my part of it and leave it in the hands of the rest of the team, I can join a lot sooner than 7:30.
And the reason we were doing that is because we thought that we couldn't just wait till Monday.
I don't think we wanted to wait until Monday. We wanted to get, I agree with everybody.
Okay,
This
that's
part of
fine.
it, we need to make a decision on this, get it off to CPS, and then bingo, we can move on to the rest of the work.
Okay, so I'll do a slide deck. I'll share it with you. You guys can comment on, make sure that I'm not misrepresenting anything that was said. And then I have the documents from Mr. Burney, and then I'll walk through just kind of what you did today. And I can encourage them to watch this meeting, which I will do. And then we're not meeting until May 2nd. So the budget committee.
Mhm.
So, but Mr. Burney, you and I could hang out and do percents. I mean,
Yeah, I was just thinking like, we need to meet before then. I'd like to, definitely try to nail this down and start working on this together. Just so that, everyone's on the same page and you can answer questions, I can answer questions, and, making sure that we vet all stakeholders involved. So we're making a really informed decision that everyone is comfortable and can agree with.
Okay, let me look at the calendar because maybe you would want the whole budget committee to meet.
No, I mean, you and I can go over certain things
okay.
if we want to present it. I don't want to occupy everyone's time. I'm very comfortable with working with you.
Okay.
I don't mind that at all. You speak my language.
Yeah, let's like try to meet maybe the week after spring break, and then I think asking PPLC to survey what books and software needs there are, and Troy too. I mean, I think you did that last year, Troy.
No.
Okay.
Very helpful. But
Okay.
I will try to be there Thursday.
I'll invite you. I'll put it on your calendar so then
Thank
you
you
don't
so
have to
much.
think so. Yeah, you don't have to worry. Okay. All right. Thank you. I just wanted to add that my other daughter will be a freshman, so she and her dad will be there on Wednesday. So.
Congratulations.
Okay. So it's kind of
Sarah,
exciting.
just a side question not related to budget. For the principal evaluation surveys, do you remember what day we said that we were going to have those in? Do you remember?
Let me go look at the minutes because I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay, I'll look at the minutes. Well, we haven't.
But you don't have them, so
Yeah.
I've got to go look at my chicken scratch and then I'll.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks.